just to let you in, little duck.
The sound of a classical melody filled the air of the estate, mixed with the stench of punch and a rousing chorus of young voices who either knew the Marchand family or were of great stature that they somehow ended up involved with the evening's grand ball, whilst Constanze Weber, aged 17, and like her family, poor as a church mouse, found herself cornered near the punch bowl table with her second eldest sister, Aloysia Weber. The beautifully lined table was filled to the brim with mouth-watering dishes and desserts that Constanze could only ever dream of eating in her imagination. Of course, she had not dared to indulge in such decadent items, even as the aromas of wine and chocolate caressed her senses, and she was of age to take the wine. She, however, out of proprietary reasons, still refused. After all, Constanze could not make a spectacle of herself here in the home of her dearest friend Marguerite Marchand, a lady of fine taste and beauty, whom rather at the most inopportune moment passed Constanze briefly and stopped by, bringing the tense discussion brewing between Aloysia and her to a screeching halt.
Ah, kindest greetings, Stanzel, dearest. I say, goodness me, what's happened? You look flushed as a ghost. Has my elder brother been teasing you again?
Nay, haven't seen him since we arrived.
Constanze smiled rather awkwardly, her cheeks burning with embarrassment and hurt from the forcefulness of trying to appear cheerful. Rather intensely, she was fighting back the urge to run away and hide in a dark corner of the room where no one might find her. After all, she and her sister were in the midst of a verbal spat, and it was terribly uncomfortable when your dearest friend walked in on such a display of unsisterly affections at play.
Ah, yes, I believe he's in the smoking room with the other men. Oh, pardon my interruption, of course. I pray I'm not causing a stir. Law, 'tis briskly cold in this room. Our servants ought to have set another log on the fireplace to chase away such a dreadful autumn chill. Ooh. I say, however, Louisa, your cheeks are flushed. Is the party too much? How fares your evening?
Spoiled, but rather a fine affair.
Aloysia huffed, sipping upon her glass of punch.
Spoiled? Goodness me! Oh, Fobby Wobbles, that shan't do. I beg your condolences. Mamma shall have my head if her guests are found dissatisfied.
Constanze leapt to her friend's aid in kindness.
You needn't apologise. I fear that Louisa teases you quite harshly, my dearest friend. She's had too much punch is all. Why not some lemon cake, Louisa? Ice cream too? It's all the fashion to eat apricot ice cream, don't you know? They say it's good for hydration.
Ah, thank heavens. You relieve my heart, Stanzy. That was quite a crude jest your sister did express. Oh, pardon my ignorance, of course. I admit, your humour is rather sophisticated and perhaps above me, Louisa. But I am quite so inclined to laugh.
Marguerite began to babble, as she so often did, whence she swiftly turned her head upon hearing the sound of her mother's soft and gentle voice. "Marguerite, a moment of your time, my dearest daughter," Frau Marchand called out from across the dance floor.
What does she require now? Ah, fiddlesticks. It seems I must cut away for the moment. My mother needs me momentarily. Forgive me and adieu, Constanze, but please dance with someone tonight. You must promise me you shall find a handsome beau or drag my elder brother away from his boorish friends. He fancies you.
I shall, you have my word.
Oh, and do be on the lookout for a guest of honour. The great Mozart himself is here. His father is a friend of the family, and my papa was able to invite the son tonight.
Marguerite exclaimed happily, as she took Constanze's hands in hers and danced about in a circle, round and round. The two girls spun together momentarily, laughing and giggling. The sensation of freely spinning about the ballroom had alleviated all worry, even if it was a temporary alleviation at that.
Herr Mozart? Truly? The wonder of Europe is here?
Constanze gasped giddily, joining in her friend's enthusiasm.
Indeed he is. Oh, can you fathom it? A rising star, a great composer, here in my home of all things. He must be the finest of dancers. Please don't be shy if you see him. I hear Herr Mozart is debonair, dashing, a real beau, and if you do find him, you must share every ounce of what he's like with me. Come find me, Stanzel, after I appease my mamma, that is.
Marguerite kissed her on both cheeks and smiled brightly as she took her leave of the tense moment between the two Weber sisters, as she headed towards her mother and the other mothers who had convened for everlasting syllabubs and coffee near the bookshelves that adorned the walls, allowing Constanze and Aloysia to resume their heated conversation.
Mozart would never look upon a little wench such as yourself. Just look at your dress, raggedy and patched up. Who would want that? You shouldn't be here.
Are you simply jealous that I made this myself?
Jealous of a scrap dress? I shouldn't think so. Mine is regal, a true Parisian passion. Yours is a walking quilt. I swear, every moment I'm in your presence, it makes me look undesirable. Why are you here again?
Because you are my sister. I shall ignore your cruelty towards my dress and my skills as a seamstress. And secondly, I'm here because Marguerite is my friend. It shan't be your decision where I go, and nor shall I follow you to dictate my life. The Marchand family adores me. I teach their youngest daughter to sing and to sew. However, we were all invited to this affair. Sophia, Joe, and myself, Anthony, and you. Even Mamma is here. Though poor father nurses his cold at home, 'tis fortunate he's not about, for he should see his eldest daughter making a fool of herself by throwing herself at the men of the
Aloysia
Empire.
sipped on her punch and scoffed as she noted her twin brother chatting up a flurry of women near the fireplace.
You're scolding me? Take a look, sister. Our Anthony makes a spectacle of himself wherever he waltzes. Just look at him. He's being a complete cat with those ladies. He's an embarrassment.
Constanze glanced over her shoulder, spotting the commotion across the ballroom floor. Her elder brother, Johann Anthony Weber. A handsome man to boot, he had his father's alluring features, though his personality was sly as a fox in the henhouse. Anthony was of average height, dark of hair, and fair-skinned, much like his sisters. Aged 19 and dressed in a dark blue tailcoat with ivory-coloured breeches. He was caught by the war with one dame after another dame near a bowl of punch and a massive table lined with cakes. However, they seemingly laughed in his face and took their leave when Anthony spotted his chance to be the hero of a fiery red-haired lady. She was dressed in a rather tastefully long, flowing, dark-coloured satin dress with fringe, as was the latest fashion, and her reputation remained that of some local prima donna fated for France or Italy. The masses of Mannheim's opera called her Lotte, and Lotte, chasing the euphoria of such applause, was vain. At present, she had forcibly left the arm of some poor bloke who could hardly be called a man. Great was the fortune of her partner, Herr Henrik. However heartbroken he would be from her flat-out rejection of his proposal for betrothal, in his haste to get away, he'd awkwardly spilled his wine upon the bustle of her gown and hurried off. Poor Herr Henrik, a snivelling muck he made, and Lotte poised for a ruined evening, whence Anthony swooped in. Near debonair in that snug royal blue waistcoat of his, He appeared as a swashbuckling hero of old folk tales, or so he liked to believe he was, within his own overinflated, egotistical head. Though one could hardly count the brash Johann Anthony Weber as some rogue Viennese Casanova amongst the streets of Mannheim, Germany. It should be noted that he was by far a mild womanizer, and he liked the thrill of the chase. With that in mind, it could be well counted that he, the son of a pauper and an apprentice to his eldest brother, with very little prospects for a future and having little interest in anything else, wasn't beyond keeping his silvery, quick-witted tongue within the confines of his breeches.
Have you wasted your dance card, love? Or shan't ye allow me the pleasure of leading you in the grandeur of a waltz?
Anthony whispered flirtatiously, waltzing up to her, a glass of punch in his hand. He took a swig and eyed her up and down smoothly.
And whom are you, sir?
Lotte fanned her powdered face and blushed.
Yes. Allow me the pleasure of an introduction, miss. I am Johann Anthony Weber, at your service. Local rabble-rouser, charmer of ladies, and perhaps the man you need after that weasel I witnessed spill punch upon your pretty skirt.
You can call me Frau Müller. I ought to say you're quite the bold one, and rather forward, Herr Weber.
One ought to be, Or shall we frown upon such forwardness in the face of others' ungentlemanly behaviour, dearest Frau Müller?
Anthony smirked. He was confidently assured of himself, and proud too.
If we are being forward, I shall plainly express that the man whom you refer to was of little consequence. Though he accompanied me as my chaperone, it seems he believed I'd given him the impression that I liked him, whence I daren't, nor have I ever carried such inclination towards his person. However, you, unlike such former companionship, are quite handsome. You're right as punch, I'll give you that, and rather refreshing too.
Lotte was both mortified and impressed by his boldness.
Am I amiable to your better sympathies, then?
'Tis a possibility,
Lotte remarked coyly, fanning her face further. Anthony tilted his head to the side boyishly and winked flirtatiously in reply.
Is there perhaps a chance for a dance, love? To liven up our spirits in dastardly dreadful circumstances, making quite the spoiled night a worthwhile endeavour. If it can be, of course, endured under the current social pretences.
Lotte blushed harder and held out her delicately elegant hand to him.
Pretences foregone, sir. Indeed, there may be room for your charms, Herr Weber.
Anthony.
Christian names? Quite the scandal.
Anthony kissed the tops of her palm and smiled. He was real beau monde and amiably handsome at that, as he took her silk-gloved hand in his own.
Hardly. Your eyes are diamonds, and those lips, a rose that I long to kiss. How ardently this heart beats for you. Come away, my rose.
Merci, monsieur.
Lotte smiled, taken to the dance floor with Anthony upon her arm, while his sister, dearest little Constanze, watched the act from far across the same ballroom floor, crowded by couples dancing the first waltz together. Her brother and his temporary sweetheart now included amongst the various couples on the floor.
You shame him? Anthony is a man. Louise, I understand he is to act as he must. He can't help it. But you, I've observed, are no better. Between your words, cold as a dagger, and your haughty attitude bordering on a woman of ill repute. Therefore, if our dear brother's actions are naughty and disagreeable to your own heart, pray that you hold yourself accountable to higher standards. Or must you sink into unscrupulous habits, bearing that of a marmalade lady?
Aloysia clicked her tongue and fanned her face, though a touch of arrogance graced her painted lips.
Your prattle is intolerable.
And you are incompetent, repulsive, cruel.
Ought I take offence? I shall not. But if I am reprehensible, what of you, little goose? Why haven't you made a motion about this affair? There are many handsome men here tonight after all. Enjoy yourself.
I shan't be indecorous, Louise, and I'm a guest in the house of a dear friend, and honoured to have been invited. I shan't make a fool of myself. And like you, I have propriety.
Oh, that's not what I hear.
What?
There are rumours that a certain brother of the Marchand family fancies you, and that not only he, but several eligible men in Mannheim are lusting with burning passion for the third Madame Weber. What's your secret, little wench? Have you shown these men your pearl? Perhaps the goods of your own womanhood?
Secret? You lie! I haven't any secrets, and I certainly wouldn't flaunt my pearl. I haven't any pearls to share.
That keeps you in the dark, little goose, and for your age it's high time you learned the truth of our womanhood. The pearls are what men want. The pearls are what they desire for the oysters. And you, with your little dream of kindness and goodness, is naught but a fool's dream. A naive dream, only the undesirable of society dream, because they have yet to learn what happens when a man takes what he wants from your pearl. But of course, if the tales on the ditch aren't true, then perhaps you're truly an undesirable, and some other Constanze is acting on her womanly instincts. Therefore, as an undesirable, I'll tell you what I see. I see a kitchen maid dressed in a quilt of scrap fabric she made with a stitch. Right, there it is, and it is coming undone.
Aloysia grabbed Constanze by her shoulders and stole her away to an empty and isolated corner of the room. Their faces close, and Constanze was mildly terrified that Aloysia was going to hit her. But instead, Aloysia grasped the shoulder of her younger sister's dress and she ripped it harshly. Tearing at her hair and the bodice of her dress, she tore away at the beautiful scrap fabric that Sophia had saved for Constanze to make the dress in the first place, and with each rip and shredding and destruction of the fabric, Constanze felt herself hot with tears. At the same time this was occurring, a little ways away from the scene of Aloysia tearing apart Constanze's darling dress, a young man, dashing in appearance, wearing a red coat with gold buttons, adorned in a white powdered wig and bearing the sweetest blue eyes you'd ever seen, though he himself would not say he was handsome, was sipping on some wine to help his cause. Herr Mozart had stuck to the wall for the majority of the whole affair. He was awkward and didn't know anyone. Not to mention he was sickly. The poor man sniffled. He'd been feeling rather unwell all night and had declined to play the piano tonight for any guests about the ball.
Oh, have mercy. Is that the prodigy of Salzburg? Truly, standing before me. Goodness. Could this be my chance to make headway? Nay. Calm your nerves, Anna. Approach him with poise and grace. Smile. Compliment his rondo or his violin concerto number 5. Yes. And most importantly, curtsy like Mama has taught you. Offer your hand, ask him for a dance, and make a bloody connection.
Lost in his thoughts, and favouring his obviously stuffed-up nose, which was growing pinker from the cold, he felt a touch dizzy with a mild fever, and opted to lay down upon the soft ivory cream-coloured sofa near the wall, when he was approached by an eager young lady of soft blonde curls and a pretty dress, asking for his hand to dance.
Good evening, Herr Mozart. May I ask if you might give me the honour of a waltz?
What?
The poor man shuddered, however, swiftly falling into an unexpectedly harsh and uncomfortable sneezing fit, which, upon recovery and the ungraceful wiping of against his poor sleeve, instantly ruined his chances with the lady, which embarrassed him deeply.
Fiddlesticks, what is wrong with you? I say, do you have an ounce of decorum? Law, and you're the wonder of Europe? Hardly a wonder, I should say. You're naught but a top-top, snot-nosed ragamuffin. You disgust me.
Pardon me, I...
He stuttered, blushing, and unable to recover socially. The lady turned away in utter disgrace, turning her nose up at him and huffing loudly as she pouted in the most unladylike of manners.
And nothing to say either. How unsightly.
The disgruntled lady muttered, leaving the poor man alone. Mozart sniffled his poor red nose into his handkerchief, turned away on his boot heel rather quickly, and anxiously tugging at his cravat, he began to seek anywhere he might hide from the social blunder he'd just committed.
Oh no. Oh dear. I've made a muck of things. I need somewhere to hide.
He stamped his foot upon the floor
Oh, no.
and sniffled again, rather flustered. He was feeling quite awkward in the middle of the hall. People were dancing or gossiping too loud. His discomfort grew. The whole of the hall seemed to sway as if he were in a raging sea. As Wolfgang bolted towards the stairs ahead of him, he was stumbling past the very room where Aloysia Weber was departing her younger sister's distress. At the same time, the gangly young Mozart was arriving.
Frobby wobbles. Damn this wretched cold.
In a panic, Wolfgang nearly ran headfirst into Aloysia, just barely missing her as she leapt back towards the corner of the room she had left. He ducked around her, his footing fumbling, his poor nose dripping with snot, and as he bolted away, fast as his poor legs would carry him, he was loudly apologising, over and over, as he scurried like a mouse towards the stairs and disappeared, leaving Aloysia to shake her head and roll her eyes as she left Constanze against the darkness of the alcove wall. Poor girl was shaking with fright. Aloysia's footsteps retreated, and Constanze continued crying her eyes out whilst huddled against the wall, though the sound of boots thudding away in the distance seemed to startle her as she lifted her head. Her poor dress was a tattered mess now.
Aloysia, how could you?
She softly wept, burying her face in her hands. After a moment or two, Constanze arose to her feet from the little hidden alcove and ran towards the grand staircase ahead. Tears blurred her vision as she bolted, and at last, reeling for what seemed to be an eternity, turning corners and rushing up the stairwell, and then another and another, beyond where the dancing below continued on, as she stormed into a tiny, hidden wing of Marguerite's grand estate beyond the floor lined with guests. Huffing with frustration and hot tears flowing down her face, she leaned her hand against the pretty, soft, ivory-coloured wall of flowered flourishes, where a round mirror lined with gold was hung. This must be the powder room, she thought, and looking upon her tattered dress once more, allowed herself a moment to weep.
It's ruined. She ruined it.
Her beautiful soft blush scrap fabric evening dress was all torn, ruined at the hem, and she felt ugly as she realised there was a circular mirror in front of her upon the adjoining wall of the little alcove hidden behind a thick royal purple-coloured curtain. Taking further note of herself, Constanze was mortified that she appeared tattered and dingy. Her beautiful chocolate-brown hair was all pinned up but messy from Aloysia's roughness, and her eyes welled up with further painful tears as she sobbed softly into her hands at the prospect that she was truly the most ugly woman in the world.
I don't deserve kindness.
Constanze whispered tearfully to herself as she covered her mouth and began to sob once again. Yet, unknown to her, she had spoken this disappointment thought loud enough to be heard, and, though she hadn't cried long, her moment of silence was swiftly interrupted by the suddenness of a gentle and quiet sneeze from the back of the room. Slowly, she lifted her head and turned her gaze towards a young, terribly thin, short and pale-looking man, wearing a beautiful red jacket lined with golden buttons and regal flourishes of exquisite fleur-de-lis. Although, unknown to her, she was looking upon the wonder of Europe, Herr Mozart. While underneath this rather elaborate brocade, he bore a simple white ruffled shirt, and with them a pair of black trousers and black square-buckled boots with contrasting white long stockings. He raised an off-white handkerchief to his nose, which was strangely large by comparison of his eyes and tiny features of his face.
Pardon me.
But it was not ugly, and as he pulled the handkerchief closer, Constanze could tell his poor nose was quite pink with irritation. As another sneeze befell him, and he cleared his throat, tugging uncomfortably at his cravat as he leaned his head back, eyes closing, and sneezed again, only louder.
Pardon me.
Bless you. Are you all right?
Constanze called out to him at last, raising her small voice, and with a touch of fright he let out a small gasp of alarm, as at last Herr Mozart took note of Constanze's presence.
Pardon me?
Exhausted from his cold, he sniffled, rubbed his nose, and turned his gaze towards the window. He was looking up at the moon and starry-lit night sky beyond the window panes, when at last he turned and spotted Constanze, who from his perspective looked as if she had been through much herself. Yet in his gaze there was little scorn, nor shadows of harsh judgment, and not a hint of contempt or the sneer of sniggering laughter in his eyes. It was instead with a gentle smile and the sweetest blue eyes Constanze had ever seen that he beckoned to her with his gloved hand, and she, though cautious, approached him quietly.
Are you well?
Huh? Oh, goodness me. Hello there. And thank you. Yes, I'm quite well.
The young man said with a gentle smile.
Of course. Hello there. And I beg your pardon, I didn't know anyone was back here.
Constanze said, folding her hands in front of her. The young man nodded and pulled a face of concern as he looked up and down at her state of dress and clear distress.
'Tis fine. However, may I ask, why are you crying, miss?
Constanze's eyes watered with tears. She sniffled, and he pulled from his other pocket a clean handkerchief for her to use.
Dry your eyes.
Constanze was taken aback by this rather unexpected gesture of kindness, but she accepted the handkerchief and dabbed her face gently with it.
Thank you, sir, but I'm all right.
The young man wasn't convinced of the matter, and he frowned, growing more worried with each passing second.
You don't look it. Can I help you?
No, and I wouldn't wish to burden a stranger. I don't know you. No disrespect meant, sir.
Oh, none taken, of course. And in that case, I suppose I ought to introduce myself, shouldn't I? I'm Wolfgang. Amad. Dumb. I am Wolfgang Gottlieb. Who are you?
Wolfgang asked this with curiosity and sweetness in his voice, stumbling over his words a bit and smiling kindly as he arose from his seat near the windowsill to bow gracefully.
I'm Constanze Weber. Thank you for the handkerchief, Herr Wolfgang.
Of course.
Bless you. Wolfgang, you sound stuffed up. Are you sick?
Yes. I caught a cold on the road, travelling with my mother. But it rained, and I was unprepared. Unfortunately, it bit me with vengeance. Now I've got a cold in my nose.
Wolfgang said, lifting his handkerchief to his nose and
You
sneezing
sound
again.
awful. May I fetch you some tea? I believe there's elderberry in the parlour downstairs.
You needn't worry over me.
Wolfgang began to protest that he was rather sorted, but instead he was quite cut off by Constanze's hand and her insistence to help him.
Insist.
Oh, all right then. But only if you tell me what troubles you. You look melancholic, and your dress is torn at the hem and sleeves. Why has it been ripped to shreds? Did someone hurt you?
My sister and I got into a scuffle, and she was unkind to me. So I took a moment to breathe, and here we are.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. She's my eldest sister. We always fight. But I hope I didn't disturb you.
Not at all. I came up here earlier because I was feeling unwell and...
Wolfgang sat down again, fidgeted in his seat against the window, and tugged at his shirt.
I feel quite awkward. I must seem a great deal foolish to you. I ought to know how to talk to people, but I'm afraid my tongue is slippery, and I'm not elegant.
You seem rather elegant to me.
You're kind to pay such a compliment, but I'm not from here. I don't know anybody nor the customs, and I'm not so good at small talk. I often wonder, how do people know what to say? I feel that I hardly know how to start.
Really? Well, you did so with me, and you still are. I'd say that's a good beginning.
Wolfgang smiled gently, fiddled with his fingers, and began to tap them together.
Did I? I mean, am I? Oh, I guess we have been. But you seem easy to talk to, and you look quite sad. I wanted to help. I hope I have. You see, Mother says I always go poking about. But I mean well.
Constanze folded her hands upon her lap as she settled in beside him upon the window seat and nodded, turning her gaze towards the sky outside. It seemed a peaceful scene.
You just love the world at night.
Yes. Say, the moon is rather pretty tonight, don't you think?
I love the stars too. And the way they twinkle in the sky. I'm always so fascinated with the beauty of the evening. The crickets and the sounds of the pretty birds.
It's beautiful.
Truly. I hope I'm not bothering you or poking about, Miss Constanze.
Mozart sighed softly. He was blushing and bashfully awkward in her presence.
Pardon.
Bless you. And you didn't go poking about with me. You saw I needed help, and I can't say I've met anyone tonight who cared enough to express their kindness.
He coughed a little, bringing Constanze back to the remembrance that she would get him tea, and she quickly withdrew from the windowsill and hurriedly walked out from the hidden alcove behind a beautiful curtain of velvety red, to trek several flights of stairs in order to retrieve a cup of warm tea for herself and the young man, though it was hardly a swift and easy return back up the rounding flight of stairs, without drawing the eyes of anyone who cared to ask her why she appeared as a ragamuffin at such a fine party.
Here we are, but be careful, it's hot. Pardon you, oh, you poor dear.
Damn this cold. Oh. Goodness me. I ask you to pardon my mouth, Miss Constanze. It is vulgar at best, when I've had enough, and I'm quite tired tonight. I thank you for the tea.
'Tis my pleasure to assist you, of course. Although you need more than tea. In fact, you require bed rest, medicine, and good soup.
Oh, if only. You see, I can't rest. I'm a guest of the Elector from Bonn. He's staying in Mannheim, and I've got a composition I must craft for him. I'm giving him a personal concert. Unfortunately, to rest would only stall me. I shan't have time to tend to my cold.
You write music?
Yes, indeed. And it's my dream to compose a great opera too. Though I'd be happy playing for my own pleasure. I suppose one must make money.
An opera? Truly? As a musician, you must meet composers in your travels.
I have. In fact, I've been many places in my travels as a musician. From Vienna to Paris and Italy. Why? I have seen England even.
England? Oh, truly? Are they very queer there? I've heard they're of a strange religion and wildlife in England. I've never seen such places. You must lead the most extraordinary of lives there, Wolfgang.
Wolfgang blushed and grew quite shy, averting his eyes from hers.
Sometimes I wish I had an ordinary life. Being a musician isn't always glorious, you know.
Oh, Wolfgang? Does travelling make you sad? Is it not exciting to go beyond the borders of home?
Oh, you mistake me. It is most exciting, and there's much I haven't yet seen. I am only 20 years of age, but at the same, though I've seen much of the world, I admit I miss my bed, and my Bertie. I have a canary, you know. She's bright red and beautiful. And I quite miss my little dog, Bimple. And the cat, my little Sonata. And although I hate my hometown, I even miss home. Mostly, I miss my elder sister. I call her Horseface.
Oh, Wolfgang, that sounds crude.
Mayhaps. But I only say this to be teasing to her. Of course she's not a Horseface, truly. But I wish she could have come too. I think we all should have come together. Even if I wanted to travel alone. It might have been well if Nanny was here. And Papa
Sounds most
too.
difficult to be separated from those you love.
Constanze noted the shift in his demeanour. There was a sadness and
Aye.
almost loneliness in not only his soft and weary gaze, but his whole body seemed to slump, his posture poor and hunched. There was a heaviness that crept around them, and that touched dear Constanze's heart in ways she couldn't explain. Constanze noted the rising of water upon the edges of his eyes, and thinking quickly, shifted the gears to another topic.
May I ask, Wolfgang, have you ever heard of Herr Mozart? He's a Salzburg composer, a great prodigy of all Europe. And I hear he's coming to Mannheim. Although a friend of mine has said he is here tonight. I have yet to see him.
Wolfgang nearly spat his tea and smiled knowingly. He was Mozart, but this girl, this Constanze, had no idea she was even speaking to him, and for some reason he didn't mind at all. He was Wolfgang. She hadn't recognised him as the great artist he actually was, and for one moment he felt relieved. Most of the time women threw themselves at his feet and begged him for favours. Therefore, having someone simply sit beside him and talk to him as if he were a person was quite nice for once.
I can't say I have.
Oh,
He sipped down his tea and put away his handkerchief as he arose to his feet. The sound of a waltz was flowing into the room, was beautifully moving, prompting Wolfgang to hold out his hand to Constanze in a gentlemanly fashion.
Now, that is a lovely waltz, and I haven't yet had the chance to dance. Therefore, may I ask you for this dance, fair maiden?
Constanze hesitated and looked down at her dress.
oh no, not me. I'm afraid I'm too ugly to dance. You see, I'm not a beautiful woman. Not handsome enough for the men of this fine affair. In fact, I'm a wench, a pauper's daughter, and my dress is quite tattered, and gentlemen only want something I don't understand, but I believe they don't desire a lady of my calibre.
Wolfgang took her hands and lifted her gently to her feet.
And I am the ugliest, most undesirable man this side of Austria, who is asking for your hand to dance. Perhaps there are a rare few of us who do not desire this thing you do not understand.
You're
This
not
dance.
undesirable. You're the kindest person I've met all night.
And neither are you. Undesirable. I mean, you're tender and compassionate. All this cold of mine has done is annoy people tonight. I sneezed my head off as some lady tried to ask me for a dance, and she turned away in disgust afterwards. I felt embarrassed by my actions, so I fled here.
It's a cold. We all get them.
Constanze softly answered, reaching up and feeling his head, to which he closed his eyes and leaned against her palm gently.
You're flushed and warm. You have a mild fever, Wolfgang.
Constanze noted, feeling his poor head. It most certainly was warm as the embers of a dying fireplace.
Yes, I feel a little worn. After this dance, I will hail my mother and tarry on. However, later, I'll see to it that you have a dress delivered to you. I'll ensure it. One that is beautifully tailored for you.
Wolfgang said, smiling as he opened his soft and gentle eyes again.
Oh, sir, no. You mustn't.
Constanze's eyes widened with surprise, and she blushed, a bit flustered.
I insist. I don't have much myself, but you are kind, Miss Webber. And given you have been generously helpful to me tonight, I believe you deserve to be treated with the same kindness.
Constanze was taken aback. Her eyes nearly flowed with tears again. And in fact they did, as Wolfgang set a soft gaze upon hers and laid his hand upon her cheek.
You remind me of my dear sister, Nan. I miss her. She cared for me as you have, especially when I was unwell. But in my book, anyone willing to be so kind to a stranger that they've just met is a person I will always remember. Even when we part tonight, I'll remember you.
Then, perhaps one dance will suffice. Though I'm hardly the best.
It's all right if you aren't good at dancing either. I'm afraid I may step on your toes. I don't know how to dance very well myself. Sometimes I have 2 left feet, or I forget the steps.
Constanze smiled tenderly and took his hand in hers and briefly pulled him close to her.
Well, there's no one here but us. I can teach you if you want. I may be an awful dancer, but I'm a patient teacher and the waltz is my specialty.
Thank you, Mademoiselle Webber. I am your humble student tonight in this grand affair.
Wolfgang blushed as he pulled back and bowed sweetly, while Constanze curtsied, and the two of them drew together, with Constanze taking Wolfgang's hands and positioning them properly for their waltz. They began to step in time together with the beauties of the music in the air. Although Wolfgang faltered a bit, he nearly stepped on her toes several times in the course of his flawed attempt at dancing. The act of such a fault caused him to blush harder with embarrassment, and he became flustered, though Constanze didn't shout or scold his failings, only gently correcting his motions, and brought him back to centre as she continued to show him the proper way one dances a waltz.
And 1, 2, 3, 4.
The notion gave him pause for once. He was rather surprised at this immense patience shown freely to him of all people, and from a complete stranger at that. In the best way a man can be overwhelmed, it filled him up to the point that it made his most sensible and gentle heart skip a beat.
Wolfgang. Look at you, you're doing wonderfully.
I have you to thank for that. You're a fine teacher. In fact, I think you're the finest teacher I've had. The last person who tried to teach me to dance they become vexed and grumpy with me. But you're encouraging the kind of person I wish.
His voice trailed off sadly, and his gaze faltered shyly away as they swayed together.
Yes?
I wish that I had someone like you as a friend when I was little. Kindness is a virtue, as my mother says. Of all the virtues and qualities in this life, I believe it's important to be kind-hearted and show it to people in our paths.
Perhaps in that case I can be a friend to you?
Constanze said, nodding as they began to spin about the alcove together in sync. Wolfgang smiled. He was giddy as a small child in her arms. His feet moved in time with Constanze's own, and eventually he didn't need her to count any more, as they danced to the music flowing through the air, swaying about the room with Wolfgang's hands softly clasped in hers.
I wish you could. However, I wouldn't stay long enough for us to be much more than acquaintances. I'm afraid I move around often. My family travels so much. I've seen, as I mentioned, all of Europe. To be honest, you'll forget me.
Wolfgang whispered, lowering his eyes sadly.
I shan't. I could never forget someone so gentle of heart and compassionate as you've been.
Many say that.
But I won't. And I'll prove it.
How?
Wolfgang asked, a touch hopeful in his inquiry.
You're a musician, right?
Yes, I am.
Are you in need of a copyist?
Yes. Actually, I am. I hate making copies of my music. It's ever so tedious. Usually my sister would do that for me. But she's destined to stay at home, never to travel again. You see, our father is cruel in denying her talents.
Your sister plays music like you?
Well, yes. I adore my sister Nan. She's why I play the piano and sing. I learned from her.
Right. Another question then. When are you supposed to leave?
Well, we are supposed to stay and play for some friends here, and then more work for the lector. But they won't see me. They keep me in suspense and then turn me away. In fact, before the dance tonight, my connection here, rather, my father's connection, told me there was nothing for me in Mannheim but a waste of ducats. He insulted me and said that I was a foolish little man. I admit, I stormed out on him.
I'm sorry that happened, but what if you don't leave? Instead, you and your mother should stay in Mannheim for a few weeks and meet my father. He's a music copyist. His fee is reasonable too, and I know he'll appreciate the work. Of course, while he copies your music, my sister's eldest brothers and I can entertain you. We can show you around Mannheim, and you could enjoy the autumn season with us.
Who's your father?
Evertolin Weber, of course.
Truly? Why, I believe I met him on my arrival here. But I told him no. You see, I thought the elector would bring me a fortune. Seems that's not the case for me. However, might there be a chance with your father still?
I believe so, yes.
You do that for me? A second chance? Truly? Oh, Constanze, thank you. Thank you so much. I'll talk to Mama and convince her to stay a little longer. I'm grateful I met you tonight. Oh, you gave me such hope.
Wolfgang smiled and laughed, twirling Constanze around and around joyfully.
You've made a rather awful evening quite beautiful.
What happened? Truly.
Tis simple. My sister tore my dress because she's merely a hateful swan, and I'm a goose with silly dreams.
Is she ugly?
In a way, yes.
I cannot abide that. Ugly hearts have no place in my life. Unkindness, cruelty, jealousy. I'm not fond of those who are frivolous.
Constanze was taken aback with surprise. She hadn't expected to find a man of his calibre in the whole world. Or rather, her little world, that was. Mannheim seemed quite so small-minded by comparison of the whole globe.
If you don't abide by that, what do you value then, sir?
Constanze answered, blushing softly. Wolfgang gently cupped her chin in his hand momentarily, and the two of them ceased their waltz.
Kindness, Frau Weber. It is the most sacred of all virtues.
Kindness? Truly, isn't that a fool's a dream?
Constanze's lips were trembling as she answered him, and she dared to look into his intense gaze. She admitted to never have seen eyes shine like his were. Their gazes reflected back at each other, and it seemed to her that when she was dancing with him, when she was in this man's gaze, it felt as if her feet had left the earth, and she was seeing the universe for the very first time. Wolfgang shook his head and drew closer to Constanze's face as he whispered, rather confidently,
I am a fool, and I'd rather be a fool who is kind of heart and compassionate in my virtues than cruel of spirit and ugly in soul.
A touch surprised by this revelation, Constanze resumed her rightful dancing position, with his hands in her own, and they continued to waltz around the little four-cornered room with a soft laugh of encouragement.
I say, pardon my change of the conversation, but look at that. You're
You
dancing.
tease me. Please lead on, Miss Constanze, and I'll gladly learn from you any day. But how can I repay this generosity?
You needn't repay me. However, if you wish to do anything, I'll expect you to dinner tomorrow
Certainly.
night.
All I need is your address, and I'll come to dinner tomorrow eve, Miss Weber.
Then let us find a quill, some ink, and a spare scrap of paper. I can't very well hope you recall much with a fever such as you've got.
Mozart smiled charmingly as he kissed her on the hand and continued to dance with Constanze in their hidden and tucked away small corner of the Grand Marchand Mannheim mansion.
Yes, I believe I would like that very much indeed.